I think we're live now. Yes, we're live. All right, welcome to another edition of Ernest Speaking TV. I'm your host, Ernest EJ Christian. Joined here, of course, by my man Mike the Squid. Mikey, how was your weekend?
Hey, buddy. Pretty
Hey,
eventful,
buddy.
but uneventful.
Buddy. Hey,
Buddy.
buddy.
Hey, buddy.
Buddy.
Yeah, just pretty laid back weekend. Working and then watched a lot of baseball on Sunday. So pretty effortless weekend.
Gotta be honest, bro. Gotta be honest. I'm all in. Baseball this season is here. I'm all in. I am all in like Flynn, baby. Like, seriously. This might be the first time. No, that's a lie, actually, because every year I get into it really heavily by July, August. But, it helps that my New York Mets are playing pretty good baseball. But, I mean, besides that, I got to be honest with you, the trade deadline was fun. And we'll get to that in a second. But this is the second year in a row I really believe the trade deadline has actually been phenomenal for the sport, in a sense where the interest now is spiked up a notch now because of the fact that now you're seeing, because you see a lot of legitimate moves being made now by legitimate players, by legitimate teams, and there's a lot more parity in the sport now than people realize. Like, for years you complain about how the Yankees and the Red Sox and all those big market teams are dominating the sport, and they don't give smaller teams a chance. That's now hogwash, man, because I mean the scales are balancing. Right now the best team in baseball is Kansas City, but we will get to all that.
Yeah, I think the reality is if you look at the American League, you have Toronto, Houston, and Kansas City, not normal perennial powerhouses, as your division leaders heading into the first day of August. So, I think, it's one of those that this is going to be a fun month and a half, 2-month run, and, may the best teams get to the playoffs.
Yeah, but we get to all that. Before we get started, I want to take some time here to news that broke literally. Actually, this broke literally 2 minutes as I signed off my radio show on Friday. The death of Rowdy Roddy Piper. Now, as you guys know, me personally, big fan of old school wrestling. You guys know that I'm well publicized. I own the network all nine. I know all my stuff in Hulk many years, right through Attitude and whatnot. Obviously, stopped watching wrestling regularly in 2002 after what I always tell you, after the Hogan Rock, the big Hogan Rock Icon match. That was my end game for wrestling. So, and while I've I watch a little bit once in a while. I'll catch WrestleMania, I'll catch a pay-per-view here and there, or maybe turn on Raw on TV. I just don't follow it regularly. It's just hard to follow it, as I mentioned in past podcasts. But Roddy Piper, is a part of my childhood. Like Hogan, and his recent issues. Obviously, we've seen what's been transpired with Hogan recently. Roddy Piper is another piece of that. And he passed away on Friday at the age of 61 due to cardiac arrest. And I mean, sad because it's sad because, like, number one, I've always said that when somebody that you were raised, watching for a long time passes away, it kind of makes you think about your own one's mortality, if you will. I mean, I felt that way when Macho Man died a couple years ago. I felt that way when Michael Jackson died a couple years ago. I felt that way, a lot of whoever it may be. And Roddy Piper, was another one of those. Now, I'll admit, I wasn't the biggest Piper fan in the world. I thought he was a good wrestler. He was a good personality. He wasn't a great wrestler, but he was a good personality. Great personality, in fact. Probably the greatest villain. Probably one of the greatest villains of all time. I mean, certainly knew how to get angles started back in the mid '80s. So, now you're a lot younger than I am, so I wanted to get your take quickly on Roddy Piper. You obviously know who he is, though. What's your take on Piper's death and his legacy and all that? And how did you take the news last week?
I was actually at work. I found out a friend of mine that is big still in wrestling like I am. Sent me a text message. We were both clearly shocked. At first I didn't want to believe it. I didn't see anything being reported, and then slowly the news started coming out. And it's one of those that's obviously really sad. Roddy was a great guy on camera. Everybody that's talked about him, all the developmental guys that have said that they've seen him in passing, he's always been one of the guys that's been very adamant about helping, this nation. He was the main event in WrestleMania 1 with Hogan, and that event doesn't sell that well without him, because Hogan can go in there and give you that what you gonna do, brother, but he had to have that guy that battled against him, and for the longest time it was Piper. And I think I think Vince McMahon will be one of the ones that will look up and say, without Roddy Piper, WWE probably collapse.
Yeah, he's one of the early guys. I would go ahead and say that too, as a fan myself, and watching that era, and actually being able to watch that era, that you had a core of guys to me that defined that era, like from like 85 to like 88, 89, that whole Hulkamania era, that the peak of the powers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, obviously Hogan was the leader of the pack, number one. You know, Macho came along in '85 that same year when Mania 1 happened. But Roddy Piper was one of those core guys.
Yeah,
you know, he was the, and it's actually shocking that he never held a WWE title. I mean, he held an Intercontinental title, but he never held the main title, the heavyweight title ever during his tenure with Vince. I mean, that seems kind of shocking today, but you know, for a guy who was actually as relevant and as big as he was, because he was huge. He was huge.
Yeah, one of his probably one of his greatest matches was actually the match that he won the Intercontinental title with Bret Hart.
Yeah,
WrestleMania, I think it was 6 or 7.
No, it was number 8.
Was it 8? Okay.
Yeah, 8.
I always get my years confused. Okay. You know, so that match with 8 is probably one of the most drawn out, well planned matches, and probably one of the better matches of Roddy's career. You know, and you know, early in the 80s, it was Hogan and whoever he got, whether it be Mr. T or some celebrity. You know, it was always against Roddy and Cowboy Bob Orton. You know, and he was always that guy that you could go to if you needed to make someone that Roddy could get the absolute best out of him. You know, he's another guy in my mind, kind of like a Jake the Snake, who never held, I believe, any singles title.
No, never did. And that's another guy also, that another core guy, another popular guy that never held a title ever.
Yeah, and I don't, and you know, it's like those two guys. You know, those were guys that, in a time that it was to be greedy, you know, guys like Hogan and Warrior and Savage wanted the title. You know, in a better expense to be greedy. Those were the guys that said, you know, I'm okay being that guy that's just going to keep putting them over. And they were okay with it. And in a time where people were very, I want, Jake and, you know, Roddy were very, I give. And, you know, it's unfortunate that Roddy has passed. You know, of course, we send our condolences to friends, family, you know, all of them in this time. You know, all of us are going to miss him. I know all the wrestling fans are going to miss him. You know, I've been going back and watching Roddy and Dusty promos for the last day or two, just going back and
that's right.
Two guys that have passed away that, you know, that this industry right now could use those guys teaching promo classes, because it would just take this product to a whole nother level.
Well, remember too, Piper was the first guy also that started the whole segment thing where like you had your own segment, like your own like background with your segment.
Yep.
Piper's Pit, of course.
It was Piper's Pit, and then he left, and they did like Adria Adonis's Garden or something, you know, and then Brother Love had the.
My favorite one, my favorite one of all time, Brother Love. I love Brother Love segments. I love you.
I like the funeral parlor with Paul Bearer when they had they locked the Ultimate Warrior in the casket, and like
I remember that.
They like try to jar it free, like you see like the scrape marks where he was like clawing to get out of the casket. Yeah. I thought that was one of the better like builds to a match.
Yeah, that you know, it's funny that I have a story to tell that one though. But the Warrior, that segment there, the Warrior Undertaker rivalry, which was very short lived because Warrior got fired like months after that from the company for a little while. But that, you know, I remember being as a kid. You know, I was never a Warrior fan. I actually always rooted against Warrior. That was the only times I rooted for Warrior was as Taker, to be honest with you. But you know, Roddy Piper started a trend. That was his thing. He used to have that Piper's Pit. A lot of rivalries were spawned off of his segments. Most notably Hogan Andre.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, weeks leading up to Andre coming out and saying, Hogan, I want to challenge WrestleMania 3. You know, he would have Jesse Ventura up there for 1 week, and then he'd have, you know, Bobby Heenan come for another week, and then, you know, obviously, you know, all that, and then it would come together the week after. This is why wrestling was better back in the days, because these things happened for 2 or 3 weeks before it actually became you know, a thing. You know,
well, the other thing is back then you had 4 or 5 pay-per-views, so you had the time to take a Andre Hogan, started in
'87
in October, and build it through April.
Mhm.
With the product now, you're putting out 12 to 15 pay-per-views, and you've got to pound out these feuds left and right like it's going out of style. So, I think nowadays the Piper's Pit wouldn't work as well, because you can't have one guy on one week, one guy on another week, and then a third party on a third week, and then have them all together, like, because it would just mash everything up way too quickly, But he took what Vince gave him, which was the microphone to take over, and he took the ball and he kept running with it. He's another guy that I think opened up everything for guys like The Rock and Austin with the way they talked on microphones. I think Roddy was the guy that really brought that to everyone's attention.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, I actually, he has his own podcast, Piper's Pit. But I mean, the name fit because obviously with what he did, it made great podcast. I was a big fan of that actually. He had a couple, a lot of old wrestlers come on there and give their career stories. Sometimes a bigger celebrity come on there, whatever. It was a great podcast. I enjoyed it very much. It was a very good podcast. I think it was one of those things where he was natural in that setting, to do this. What we're doing now. He did doing this was perfect.
I know there was a lot of animosity towards the end between him and Austin. Because of the
podcast. There was a podcast that he did with Steve Austin that never got released. Now it got released this weekend following. But it was almost banned, almost cost Rowdy Piper his job. What was that all about?
From what I understood of what happened was basically Steve went on there, they started talking, and then one of Rowdy's co-hosts decided that he was going to do the Steve Austin impersonation on every show, and Steve basically tried to pull the cease and desist, and Roddy didn't like it, and Roddy, as he isn't one to hold his tongue. So I think Roddy was basically like, "Hey, you want me to stop doing it? I'm going to do it more. Screw you." So and I think that drove a wedge between them, them two guys, which is unfortunate because both of them are catalysts in their eras of professional wrestling. And I think those guys in ring have nothing but respect for each other, and it's unfortunate that Roddy's passing, defense wasn't able to be mended before, at least to our knowledge. I don't know if there was a conversation or not, but with something as sudden as cardiac arrest, you never see it coming, so you can never know, like, oh, okay, I need to go have this conversation, because and I don't know if you've seen it, but other unfortunate news that I saw was that Jimmy Superfly Snuka had surgery earlier this week because of stomach cancer. And it's just weird that it's days after Piper passes away that the one guy that Piper really helped build with the coconut, has stomach cancer, and it's you see how everything just comes full circle, and it's just don't take for granted what you got now because you're not guaranteed tomorrow.
And it's funny you said that too, because as I said, one of the things about this freaks me out personally is the fact that it makes you look at your own mortality. Because as these guys get older and they go on to to whatever they get older and pass on, it makes you realize, wow, I'm getting older too myself. Granted, I'm only 35 years old. I got a lot of life to live, hopefully, God willing. But at the same time, it makes you think. It makes you think, and makes you appreciate what you had while it's here. Sometimes guys pass on a lot sooner than they should. And not only that, you got a situation too with some of these guys are dying younger than they're supposed to. I mean, Piper's only 61 years old. I mean, he looked fairly healthy. I mean, seeing him in various appearances on television and whatnot, he looked very healthy. These guys are dying off young. I mean, Macho Man died at what, 58 years old, 9 years old. So I mean, it's just one of those things where, and in this business, it's so tough to see the shelf life and in the end game when it's going to be, because it's almost always sooner rather than later.
You're absolutely right, and I think another unfortunate thing that you got to think about is the travel. The living on the road, the wear and tear there,
right,
obviously didn't help.
Yeah.
The unfortunate passing of Eddie Guerrero, where he went into cardiac arrest from all of his past drug abuse. I mean, you never know if Piper was doing anything, or if he was, did that affect it? It's an unfortunate thing, and you kind of got to tip your hat to Triple H and Vince now that they put this wellness policy into effect to try to keep these guys away from that stuff, just because what they're doing, and Dana White called it fake, which sure.
I saw that whole Twitter battle. Which is so beneath Dana White to be doing that in the first place anyway. Like, come on, Dana.
I mean, it's scripted, yes, but those guys go in there and take the same chances those UFC fighters take. You land the wrong way, you can break your neck. There have been plenty of guys who've been paralyzed in ring. So those guys take those chances. Well, yes, the end result may be scripted, and you may have the move that's going to finish the match. You still got to get from point A to point B. And it's unfortunate, and I'm glad that Vince and like I said, Vince and Triple H are taking this step to, make sure that these guys, when they retire, have a chance to live normal lives with their families to make up for the time that they've lost entertaining us.
Right. And once again, our thoughts and prayers go to Roddy Piper and his family and all the fans of the of wrestling and people who are mourning his loss, like us today. So, rest in peace, Roddy Piper. Okay, so. Anyway, we have to move on. There's really no way to get to segue to another topic, but we're going to have to move on to another topic here. As you mentioned earlier, leading up to this podcast, of course, was the trade deadline this past, actually, a couple days ago. And I've been saying off the record that I think these last, specifically the last 2 years, I think it's been one of the most exciting baseball transaction era. For me, anyway, that I've watched in my 20 plus years of watching baseball, these last 2 years, first off, who would have thought David Price, one of the best pitchers in baseball, will be moving 2 trade deadlines in a row and won? That is how to tell you how big this is. But more importantly, like I said, relevant teams are doing relevant things. Relevant players are moving to relevant cities or relevant situations. And now we have a situation now where baseball is, we have, to be honest, it's really a wide open situation. I mean, I know we can sit there and say KC and St. Louis are the favorites to win their leagues, but to be honest with you, that's not so much of an absolute anymore. I mean, with all these moves being made, lots of KC made. Give me winners and losers for the trade deadline so far.
Top 3 winners, I'll go Toronto with the additions of David Price and Troy Tulowitzki. Kansas City with the acquisition of Johnny Cueto finally gives them a solid number 1 starter now that James Shields is in San Diego. And, quietly, a third winner, and I guess I'll do 3 winners in the American, 3 in the National, because another quiet third winner would be the Anaheim Angels with the acquisitions of Shane Victorino, David DeJesus to solidify their 4th outfielder and bench. In the National League, Cincinnati got back quite a bit for Cueto and Leak, so you kind of tip them in the winner scale, but I would kind of leave them on the fringe. Big winners for the National League, the New York Metropolitans acquiring Jonas Cespedes.
Oh, get him!
Big move there. Definitely brings power into that lineup. Gives you the ability to move Juan Lagares to the bench and put Granderson in center, to help bolster that offense, especially when Michael Kadire comes back, and you got Michael Conforto there as well. Another big winner at the deadline, mind you, because there have been moves that have been made before, with Cardinals acquiring Steve Cishek. The Cardinals quietly got better, acquiring 3 or 4 good bullpen pieces to come out of that bullpen ahead of Seth Macias and Trevor Rosenthal. And then the San Francisco Giants, acquiring Mike Leake, going to go into that rotation, going to be a guy that's going to throw you 7 to 8 innings solid every night and allows you to move a piece like Tim Lincecum if he's struggling, or a Matt Cain in the bullpen to give you another arm out of that bullpen. So my 3 winners in the National League: Mets, Cardinals, Giants. In the American League, it is Anaheim, Kansas City, and Toronto.
Okay. Like you're stretching with stuff there. Okay, I'm not gonna go that far with. I mean, you went to each league. I'm not gonna go that far because I think you're just being a little nice there. I'm not as nice to people here. I'll give you 3 winners real quick. 3 winners. The Mets obviously number 1 in my opinion. Not just the move for Cespedes, but also the Clipper move they got as well too. From the bullpen was actually a pretty good move. I think that can that's gonna be able to stabilize moving forward if they can somehow win this division. Because I still don't think I am not convinced that the New York Mets are getting to the playoffs as a wild card, because Pittsburgh ain't slowing down, okay? And you got Pittsburgh, you got San Francisco still on fire, okay? You still got Chicago in the mix. There's too many teams in that mix, in that little bubble there. It's hard to crack that have better records than the Mets, and it's gonna take the Mets playing some great baseball the rest of the way and not let up from to even have a chance on the wild card. So the easiest route to get into the postseason for the Mets, honestly, is to win the East, and they did their job this weekend, sweeping the Nationals. I mean, I wanted 2 out of 3, hoping for a sweep. I told you back going to the weekend I wanted a sweep, but it was sweeps are very hard to come by, so I'm not gonna go ahead and just assume that. However, now that is fact and it did happen, we got a whole new ball game now. We're now early August now, and the New York Mets on first place in the Washington Nationals, a team that many coming to year has a favorite to win the National League or even the World Series, that matter. So the fact that the Mets are in this position right now in August and able to make moves to get better with that pitching staff, who honestly, between Syndergaard, Harvey, DeGrom, and I guess Matz or Colon or O'Nease, they really only need a 4-hit cushion, a four-run cushion. Because if that offense can even give them just 4 runs a game, just 4, that could be enough. That could be enough in the postseason. Because
it could be enough until you face the AL team with a DH, and then you gotta have to score some runs.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm like I said, I still think pitching is still the biggest thing. All right, back to off on that. So I don't want to be a homer here. Number 2 team that won the deadline for me, the Royals, of course. They're already great, and then they got better. Who would have thought that? The Royals just got better. And with Cueto in the lineup now, what it does now for them is it firms their position now as the favorites in the American League now, present day. And so the Royals did what?
Yeah, I don't know because
you're still big on Houston. You're really big on Houston.
It's not just Houston. I'm big on Houston. I like Houston. That's clear as day. But I like Houston for a similar reason that you're a Mets fan. When you pick up the ball, okay, you're getting Johnny Cueto game 1 of a series from Kansas City. Who are you going to get game 2, 3, and 4? That's your question. Is it your Danny Ventura with his 4.5 ERA that got demoted, that only got called up because Jason Vargas is having Tommy John surgery? Is it Chris Young, who hasn't pitched a meaningful game in August in 5.5 years? But with Houston, you got Keuchel, you got Colin McHugh. They went out and got Scott Kazmir. They got Lance McCullers. And that bullpen, if you can get them to the 7th inning, they are Kansas City 2.0. And I think that's a big thing. Yes, right. Houston lives and dies by the home run. They're either going to hit it out or they're going to hit it to the first baseman. That's their thing. But I will love Houston's pitching staff, starter-wise, going into a series against Kansas City than I would have than the Royals against the Astros.
Right. And my number 3 team, of course, I won't say of course, but number 3, you had him also too on the list. I'll put him there too. Is Toronto. Now, granted, Toronto's look, the Yankees are dominating right now, so it might be far fetched for the Blue Jays now to win the AL East, barring any disaster on the Yankees end. There's still 6 back in the division, but they got to test the wild card. They're only 1 back at the wild card. And the Angels lost C.J. Wilson probably for the year. That might hurt going forward. Minnesota, could they continue doing what they're doing here? And Baltimore's been hit or miss this year. So Toronto, on paper, of the 4 teams in contention, the Blue Jays may have the best chance to get in. I guess you could say LA was because they have Pujols and Trout and those guys, but I still think the Blue Jays, based on the moves they made with Tulowitzki and whatnot, and all the moves they made to improve their team, I think the Blue Jays have the best shot to win the wild card, at least one of those 2 wild card spots in the American League.
There's another sneaky team in the American League that everyone's forgetting about. And that's
okay, who's it?
Texas Rangers.
They get hammered, right?
They're only 8 games out of the AL West. They're
only 3 back in the wild card.
500. That team, if they can hit, which Prince Fielder, as much as everyone wants to say A-Rod's the comeback player of the year, my vote is Prince Fielder because that guy was actually hurt.
Okay.
Had a serious neck injury and came back. Now, I want to know who your 3 losers were of the trade deadline.
San Diego. What are you doing?
They still think they have a legitimate shot. Unfortunately, is what I think. What happened there with AJ Peller really thinks them being 9 games out behind the Dodgers, they have a lot.
Are they really going to think they're going to catch the Giants or the Pirates or the Cubs? I'm not even saying the Mets. I'm going to say the other teams I'm mentioning there. They're not. They can't. It's impossible. They need all things to align for it to happen. That's not happening. Sorry.
Nope.
And they're not winning division. They're not even going to win division anyway. I mean, LA's wrong with that thing. LA or San Francisco taking that. So.
Yep.
You know. So I got them. Your Red Sox, losers. What are they doing? Make some moves. Sell off some of them guys. Again, there's still value there. You know, I'm not saying now. I say that a bit hypocritical because because 2 months ago when they came out struggling, obviously, people were saying they should get rid of try to shop Hanley and Panda Bear this early, in the first year on the contract with this team, and I was like, no, it's too early. Let wait a couple of years. However, clearly there's something wrong there with that franchise now. They just now their CEO, the president, stepped down from the team this weekend. Okay, so clearly there's some mismanagement, there's some creativity, maybe some chemistry issues there with both the front office and the dugout. There's definitely some of that going on, and we can't ignore that. When your CEO and president do step down in the middle of the year, that clearly shows a lot of signs that there's more issues than just baseball issues on the field. So I am surprised that the Red Sox didn't at least consider putting one of those two guys on the market, at least to get something back for them and start fresh again, because their value is still pretty decent right now, and I think if they made a move, they could have more prospects for the future. But that's just me. You're a Sox fan, so I mean, I guess you can speak on that better.
A lot of prospects already.
What's that?
We got a lot of prospects already. One of them, I think, starting tonight or tomorrow.
And another team that I don't want to say I'm disappointed in this team though, but they probably could have made one more move, is the Pirates. And granted, I think they're good enough to win what they have now. But remember who you're chasing.
They took a blow though. They lost AJ Burnett for the year. They took a blow.
Yeah, right. And look who they're chasing. They're chasing the great Cardinals franchise. That's not just some team that exists. No, the St. Louis Cardinals are the model of consistency of the last 20 years in this sport. So my thing is, if you're being serious about becoming that team to move forward, becoming the team that everybody should fear going forward, then should you put all hands all in and make at least get even on a rental? I thought they did one more move. It's a little disappointing for me that Pirates didn't do anything. And by the way, I'm actually a closet Pirates fan, just for the record too.
With Pittsburgh though, I think they're going to try to run St. Louis down in the games they play them. I think they played 9 more times. They're going to try to do the best in those games. And I had a conversation with someone, and this is more a playoff-driven thing. I don't know who, St. Louis gives the ball to in a Game 6 or Game 7 with their back against the wall in elimination. Is it Michael Wacha? Is it John Lackey? So I think Pittsburgh is just going to try their best to run them down with Garrett Cole and Liriano and the guys they got, and try to make it work. But, they're a team that could make an August deadline move if a guy like James Shields gets through waivers unclaimed, or a starter gets pushed through, and doesn't get claimed that Pittsburgh can make a move for. So, you always got to keep your eye out for that August deadline as well.
And don't get me wrong. I think what they have now, what they're doing now, what the roster currently intact, currently constructed, is good enough to win the National League. I'm not saying it's not. But don't you want to put yourself in an even better position to be better for the postseason when it's time to become that team against St. Louis, against the Dodgers? I mean, don't you want to continue to build on what you have now? This insurance policies. I mean, it wouldn't have hurt the team to get a rental. Maybe even get in the Cespedes. I don't know. Just anybody.
Their mindset is their rentals are coming, and that is Jordy Mercer and Josh Harrison coming off the disabled list. Because you have those two guys coming off the disabled list, so you're going to be able to move Chung Ho Kang around again. You're going to have guys you can put back in the outfield. I know Starling Marte's been banged up. He's going to come back. Polanco's been banged up. He's going to be healthy. Same with McCutchen. So I think their mindset is almost the same thing as the Nationals' mindset is our rentals are the guys that we've had hurt that are going to come back and going to give us a spark when they come back.
Makes sense. So I don't want to sit and knock the Pirates because they number one, they got a 4-game cushion in the wild card. The only home games back of St. Louis in division. So they're doing their job. They're doing what they're supposed to do. At the same time, I just wish they done made one more move. And like I said, maybe because I'm a closet Pirates fan a little bit too. I root for them a little bit, because I used to like Bonds and Bonilla and Van Slyke back in the day. So I didn't, I used to root for them, back in the day. So I don't mind them being so good now. Also doesn't affect the Mets, of course, but it's another story for another day. But whatever. So okay, so the baseball's done. We're done with baseball. And like I said,
by the way, good job, Yankees. Good job, Yankees, not picking up a pitcher. Way to go, Yanks.
They got nobody.
They get the thumbs down. Their only acquisition was Dustin Ackley, another outfielder. So I give them the thumbs down.
Well, you're a Sox fan. Of course, you're gonna get the thumbs down. I mean,
Craig gave that. New York Yankee fan Craig Horn gave them the thumbs down for not going and getting a pitcher. And
they can't stop losing.
Well,
granted, weak schedule probably. White Sox. Yeah.
Well, that's the team. That's the team that the Yankees should have went and made a trade with. They should have got Samardzija. I'm surprised the White Sox held on to him.
Well, I gotta be honest with you. The Yankees being this good right now, I'm shocked. Just to say that, I'm shocked.
Yeah,
so, I'm shocked. Okay, last time to let you go. Okay, did you see UFC 190 on Saturday night?
I did.
Did you enjoy UFC 190 on Saturday night? I
did.
It was too damn long. Not including the Rousey fight, of course, though. But the entire bill was too long.
Yeah, I think that's the thing with UFC recently is their shows have been like drawn out. Like there's like, oh, we have 7 pay-per-view fights, and then we have the main event, and we have the 46 fights on Fox Sports 1 before.
You know what it is though? I think because of the fact that they know the main event, like Rousey versus Correa, was only going to go less than a minute. So that they're trying to cover their bases.
Yeah,
you can't. I mean, you really can't blame them for that, though. In a sense, as a business, a lot of fans will get PO'd about it. Will get pissed off if I'm paying $60 for this pay per view and I'm only getting less than 2 hours of actual, entertainment. I mean, come on.
Oh, especially when the main event that's supposed to be this great fight gets decapitated in 34 seconds.
I confessed on social media on Saturday, and look, I love Ronda Rousey. I mean, I think she's great. I think her story is amazing. I think just the whole image and what she has done for herself so far at this point is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I also like chaos. I also like things that are different. I also like shocking the world. I was this much rooting for Beth Correa on Saturday. Just to see an upset, just to see how it would shake up UFC. Because I remember the day when Mike Tyson lost to Buster Douglas in 1990. And I was 10 years old. Well, I was turning 10 years old that year. And I remember Tyson being undefeated. In Tyson from 86 to 90, I don't think kids understand how great Tyson was in those 4 years. Mike Tyson was the king of the world from 86 to 90, okay? Dominant, the baddest MF on the planet, okay? And that Buster fight was in Japan. So we had, and remember, this is before internet and social media. So we have no access to anything. I find out the next morning he loses to Buster Douglas. Do you know how shocking that was to the core? Let me tell you how shocking it was as a fan of wrestling. That year, the main event, prior to WrestleMania 6, Hogan and Macho King faced each other again, first time since WrestleMania 5. Mm-hmm. And Mike Tyson was supposed to be the special guest enforcer referee of that match. Now, this match was supposed to plan out months in advance. That Buster Douglas fight that happened actually 2 weeks before the main event between Macho King and Hulk Hogan. Mm-hmm. Okay, when Tyson lost, they pulled him out, and they put Buster Douglas as the replacement.
Yeah, let's bring the guy that he lost to in. Makes sense.
Yeah, well, right, but the shakeup. My point is the shakeup of Tyson losing that match back in '90. It was a big deal. I mean, that's why I was tweeting on Twitter, on Facebook. Just like Tyson because Mike Tyson's fights back before he lost his first one against Buster wasn't the same way Ronda Rousey's fights go now, which is like 30, 40 seconds. I mean, this is the norm. That being said, because I think it's safe to say now, especially with John Bones Jones not being in the sport now due to his legal issues out the octagon right now, it's safe to say that right now Ronda Rousey male or female, is the biggest star in the company? Is she Michael Jordan like at this point though?
I think she was bigger than Jones to begin with.
Okay.
She was someone who never shied away from the camera, would always be there for an interview, would always, negative or positive. She was always there. She never ran. Johnny was one of those guys that would always dodge, negative press. He would turn it over to another media guy, or he'd have Dana answer the question. He was one of those guys that never took well to negativity. And I don't know if that's Jones's past history. But Ronda, positive or negative, she goes into Brazil, goes into Correa's home stomping ground, and puts her to sleep.
So it was so sick. It was so sick because I watched that fight, and I figured go at least one round, maybe one round. You figure Correa. Look, I never saw a Correa match in my life prior to Saturday, so I can't speak on Correa's greatness. So I see a record. I see to be 2 of the 4 people in the 4 horsewomen, we call it. So I'm assuming that Correa could put up a fight, if you will. So I'm assuming maybe 2 rounds tops.
See, my thing is, and I think the only person that can probably get Ronda out of the first round is Miesha Tate. She's done it before.
And that's the next one, I think, right?
So I think Miesha's the only one because, Miesha stepped into that cage with Ronda before. She knows what to expect. She knows that Ronda's going to try to go for the throw, or she's going to try to stand up and throw. And I think Miesha, with her takedown defense and her counter punching, can keep Ronda at bay to send this fight into the 3rd and the 4th round. And I think that's what needs to happen. I know you said a little bit of you was rooting for Beth. I'm rooting for neither person. I'm rooting for a women's fight involving Ronda Rousey to get out of the 2nd round to see what happens with Ronda's gas tank in the championship rounds, in the 4th and the 5th round, when she's been 20 minutes of pure hell. But in reality, there's only probably one other person other than Miesha Tate that can do it, and I don't think she technically can do it, and a lot of people do, and that's Cyborg.
What's the Cyborg thing? I keep seeing the Cyborg thing all over.
Cyborg fought in Strikeforce prior to Ronda.
Cyborg is an actual fighter.
Yes, Chris Cyborg Santos.
The guy.
No.
The girl.
Yes.
Okay.
So, she wants Ronda. Ronda fights at 135. Cyborg fights at 145. Ronda refuses to go up to 145 to fight Cyborg. She wants Cyborg down at her weight. And in reality, Ronda doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. If Cyborg really wants this fight and really wants to beat Ronda and go down as the greatest MMA fighter in women's history, you need to cut the weight and fight Ronda where Ronda wants to fight.
Is Cyborg really good? Like, really, really good?
Well, she was, and then she got suspended for steroids. Vegas suspended her for 9 months.
Of course.
So I mean, I don't know how much you can really claim as her and how much is performance enhancement. I haven't watched a full Cyborg fight since she came back from suspension, so I don't know really where she stands. But I think the reality is if Cyborg wants to step in the cage, I don't think Ronda has a problem snapping her arm.
So to finish the question here, yes or no, Ronda Rousey is the Michael Jordan of the UFC right now?
100% yes.
Okay. Because I agree with you also, too. And I'm not saying it because I'm the biggest UFC fan in the world because, number one, I like the sport. I don't watch it regularly, although I am now inching my interest a lot more stronger towards the fight now because I think now it's a lot more watchable for me. I don't know. Maybe I'm ready to put more time into it. I didn't put more time into it before, so I didn't feel necessary for me to speak on it as much back then.
I mean, I think the other thing you have to think about is if you go to the common fight fan, yourself or somebody else that doesn't know a lot about UFC, and you go, name me one fighter in the UFC, 95% of the people are going to look up and say Ronda Rousey.
Well, that's what I'm saying, and that's exactly why I have that same position as you do, because of the fact that I don't watch the sport normally, but yet I see her on every channel I turn on. To me, that's where you get the Michael Jordan comparisons. Popularity.
In reality, with UFC, it's her, Johnny before his legal problems,
right?
George Pierre, BJ Penn before he retired.
Silva
were probably the top 5 name-wise. Now that BJ's retired, GSP isn't fighting as much since the leg injury that he suffered. And then Johnny's legal problem, that leaves you with, Anderson Silva, who's, I don't know what Anderson's doing, breaking his leg in that Wyman fight.
It definitely took some steam out of him, yeah.
So Ronda is that flag bearer right now for the UFC. They're building up new guys, Cain Velasquez, Shogun, of course, still fighting his ass off. Chris Weidman trying to get him over as the American-made man, basically. So it's exciting, but without a shadow of a doubt, Ronda Rousey is the Michael Jordan of the UFC right now.
All right. I agree. All right. Once again, that's our Speaking TV today. Mike the Squid, thank you so much for coming on, as always. By the way, guys, look out. Check me out on njcsports.com. EarnChristian.com will be up this month. Also, look out this month. We're going to have not just mine, because I'm going to have guests on there. We're going to have division by division breakdowns of the NFL. We're going to do our first one, I think, on Thursday, scheduled Thursday this week, here with Josh Zimmer, NGSports.com. We're going to talk about the NFC North and the Vikings, Packers, Bears, and Lions division and see who goes what. So we got a lot of shows going on this month. I can't wait for it. So, woo! And we're good. All right, take care, guys. As always, thank you.
Thank you, guys.